Okay, welcome back to the All In podcast. This is episode 53, part 2. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you go watch the NBA video that we just posted if you didn't get to check that out. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have some NFL topics to discuss. And Coop, do you want to start with your beloved Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, sure. I guess. Whatever.
I love the Eagles.
Yeah. I love NFL Red Zone.
Yeah, Red Zone.
Because NFL Red Zone makes me not have to watch full Eagle games and pull my hair out or more of my hair turn gray from actually watching full Eagle games. But it's I did eventually watch towards the end. Mm-hmm. And I think Carson Wentz needs to. He's got it now. I think now is the point. A loss to the Giants now is the point. You got to pull the plug on Wentz. You got to do it now because because the Giants are now with back-to-back wins are now breathing down your neck.
It's close.
And honestly, I think the Redskins lost, so you kind of avoided them. But now the Giants are in the mix at 3-7. That's unbelievable to say out loud. But it's going to be tough for them to hold on to this, man. Because if you think about it, the Giants are probably going to beat the Cowboys. With their quarterback situation. Maybe not if Andy Dalton ends up coming back, but who knows? I don't know how much better that makes it, but yeah. I don't know. I mean, now at this point, the Eagles aren't even hoping on winning this division based on beating every other team in the division. You're hoping that enough teams in the division beat each other that you win enough games to get in. It's
default.
Yeah, it's a mess, honestly, in the NFC East. The winner of the NFC East is going to out 6 games. I think 7 would be nice, but if the Eagles could get in at 6-9-1. But the offense is just bad. The play calling is bad. I think Doug Peterson's stock as a coach is plummeting because I see bad decision after bad decision. Carson Wentz holds the ball entirely too long. And really the Eagles might have to think about a full rebuild mode here because it's mostly because of the contract you gave Wentz. You don't and also Fletcher Cox is one of the highest paid defensive linemen in the league, if not the most. So, you have, and not that that's a bad contract, but you have this awful contract with Wentz that's going to limit what you really can do with him as far as putting things around him. And, it's a bad situation. And I think, you drafted Hurts in the second round for a reason. There has to be some reason why he's there. I think it's so that they can turn to a rebuild quicker, I would think. And that's the direction that is trending because, granted, even if the Eagles win the division, all right, you lose in the first round and now you're late 20s, first round pick. Who does that help? How does that help this team after you win 6 or 7 games at best? How does that, you know what I mean? Your team's certainly not going to get better, especially when you constantly miss in the draft. But on everybody that you take, especially in the first round. So it's just it's looking bleak, man. It's looking really bleak. This is such a bad loss, but it's a telling loss because the Giants almost beat us the first time. And they weren't able to hold him off this time. I love Miles Sanders though.
Yeah,
I like Miles Sanders a lot. He looked really good coming back.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just bad.
Well, it's and the running game looked really good. So it's Wentz is kind of out of excuses. Right?
Yes.
If we're doing that,
guys are healthy now.
Guys are healthy. This is as good as it's going to get for you. And it was really bad. I think it's been interesting to watch. I have a few Eagles fans in my life and they're, full 360 on Carson Wentz, not even a 360, but a 720, 1080, just round and round with him.
Yeah.
But he's bad, man. He's not good at this. And Doug Peterson's not good at this. He got worked by Joe Judge.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones looked a lot better, looked a lot more competent than Carson Wentz did, throwing the ball and also running the ball. he was a lot more accurate than Carson Wentz was. Like, it's pretty bad right now. I think they're still going to win the division. I don't know if I'd make the change. Like, it just seems risky because, but I think you're right. Like, if you're looking at it and you're like, yeah, like we got to, if we keep Wentz in for the idea of like, well, we could still make the playoffs. And we want to make the playoffs. So Wentz, he gives us the best opportunity to do that. It's less of a risk to go to keep with him now. First of all, I don't know if that's true anymore. It might be less of a risk to go to Hurts. And it's like you are probably going to lose in the first. Well, depends who they play, I guess. But it's the playoffs. I think most teams are like, yeah, but like if we make the playoffs, anything can happen, right? Don't
Right.
most teams have that
Of
mentality.
course.
If we make the playoffs, anything can happen.
Right.
So they're probably not going to blow it up quite yet. But I would agree. And I've been off Wentz for a while now too. But it's bad in Philadelphia, man.
Yeah, my thing is like, can the offense get worse with Jalen Hurts? I don't think it can.
I don't think it
Yeah,
can.
like you run, just throw Hurts in, add a bunch of RPOs into your playbook like you did with Foles. But this time you'll have someone who can keep it on read options and stuff like that. I think it would make the offense more dynamic because of what Jalen Hurts can do with his legs, and it would focus you. It would force you to run the ball more. Like I think that's something that they just flat out need to do. For some reason, he's hell bent on making Carson Wentz, throw the ball a ton of times, and he's not that kind of quarterback. Like
he's not.
I just wonder is like if we went to a Vikings type of or a Browns type of offense where we just run it until we absolutely have to throw it.
Yeah.
Would we would Carson Wentz look a lot better, and would we have the same discussion? And I think like if we went to an offense with Jalen Hurts, I think that's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
So I
think so too. But you're kind of like, well, we gave Wentz all this money, so let's try to get our money's worth. But it's not working, man. It's not working. And are you picking the Giants to win the division now? I think it's still going to be the Eagles.
So I do think the Eagles are still the favorite in the division, simply because if the Giants are playing anyone else than us, it's likely that they're losing. So I think that's the situation I mentioned earlier, where everybody else in the division just kind of beats each other just enough for us to get in the playoffs is exactly what's going to happen. Because I don't know that the Redskins, Giants, or the Cowboys can win games outside of the division. I think we might be able to steal one. I haven't looked at our schedule, but I think we might be able to steal enough games outside of our division or enough in it. Like we probably only have to win a couple more games in our division, in order to secure that NFC East title. But I would still take the Eagles as the favorite.
I would take the Eagles too as the favorite, as much as they are disappointing. I just can't imagine a world where Daniel Jones wins a division. Not yet, anyway. Maybe one day, but not right now. Of course, it is the worst division I've ever seen. So let's move on from the pitiful Eagles and talk about the Dolphins, who have been unbelievable. Really, really beat up on the Chargers here. Could have been even worse than what it ended up score-wise. So, and we talked about this last week.
Yep.
How good the Dolphins can be, and where we kind of rank them. Man, they are. They have to be considered one of the 4 best teams in the AFC at least.
Yeah, I would say so. They were 6th in my power rankings, and there were 3 teams ahead of them.
Yeah, and
with the way they've been playing, they're certainly top 5. I don't even know that that's a debate.
Yeah, I think so too. So they beat the Chargers. Battle of Young QBs. Did we learn anything new from this game?
I don't know that we learned anything new, but I think we got a little more confirmation about Tua. Yes, he looked really good again. Herbert was solid. I think he didn't look as good as Tua. Now, granted, Miami's defense is better than the Chargers, so obviously that factors in here. But these are 2 really good young QBs, man, and it was fun to see them battle it out. But I think what this told us the most is that the Dolphins are for real, which is crazy to say at this point right now, because last year with the fire sale that they had, and they were, pretty much tanking for Tua at the time. They ended up getting him, but it actually ended up being Joe Burrow. Would have been the quarterback that they probably would have took if they did get the number 1 pick. But like with everything that they traded away, they've rebuilt this team back into a competent, really good football team. And 3-0 with Tua under center. So
yep, absolutely. And we have talked about now the job that Brian Flores has done. It's been pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
What he's done, and it's defense and special teams. And I think we kind of looked at this with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they were winning some games, and we were like, oh, maybe they're pretty good with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Why are they going to Tua? But now we see it makes perfect sense to go to Tua because he doesn't really make mistakes, right? Like he's a rookie who doesn't really make rookie mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's very rare, first of all. But it's been really fun to watch. Like his decision making is so good, quick decision making as well. Like he's kind of just play action, throw it. Like he's got it down, and the arm strength is there, the accuracy is there, and the running ability is there too. Where he's just very exciting. I think he has jumped he's probably jumped Herbert and Burrow. Not so far as who do I think is going to be the best per se, but right now, if I can turn on the TV and watch one of them, it's probably Tua right now.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed with all of that. But especially, that's the thing I love about him the most is his quick decision making. He knows where he's going to go with the football. He gets it out of his hands quickly. I would love to send some of his film to Carson Wentz.
Right.
Just hey, take notes. This guy's 3 or 4 years younger than you.
Right.
So it's just right. And knows how to get the ball out of his hands. And really they got a good running game. Even without Myles Gaskin, this Ahmed dude stepped up for them big time on the ground. So, and like you said, their defense and special teams is great. So
it is.
And Tua is definitely up there. He's got, I know I said it before, but I'll say it again. He's got young Russell Wilson vibes to him, as an undersized guy, but makes good decisions, won't hurt you.
Yep.
Which is funny to say after Wilson has thrown or turned the ball over 6 times in the last 2 games.
Well,
young Russell Wilson didn't do that.
Well, let's actually talk about Russell Wilson. And you mentioned turning the ball over. He did that on Sunday against the Rams. They lost a road divisional game and are no longer alone in first place in the NFC West, the jumbled NFC West. It's been bad the past couple weeks for the Seahawks. They are the worst defense of all time by yards metrics currently.
Yep.
Is this unfixable?
The defense, absolutely. I don't know. They're at a point of no return in this case. And like we talked about, it's Russ cook or die at this point. They have no alternative but to hope that he outshoots any team.
Yeah.
And also DK Metcalf, when shadowed by elite corners, completely disappears.
Right.
So I think that's really hurting Russ as far as the let Russ cook kind of thing. If he doesn't have DK Metcalf to be able to go to, it makes it much harder for him to cook. And then you look at the 3 losses, Patrick Peterson in Arizona. Now DK Metcalf played well in the Bills loss, but Tre'Davious White, he saw a lot of Tre'Davious White. And now this time, he was completely shut down by Jalen Ramsey, who wasn't even on him as much as we expected. But he was completely shut down in this one. So kind of telling there. But and to your point that you made on the last episode, it does look like Russ forces some plays because he's trying so hard to put points up.
Yeah.
Just I think it was his first pick that he threw. where he steps up in the pocket and it looks like he's about to take off. Like
he
he's
had
getting
20
close
yards in front of him. He had to beat for a touchdown.
One guy to beat, and he like throws it across the field to Will Dissly, and like at first I was like, what in the world is he doing? Why didn't he run? And then I look at it, and like Will Dissly had like a good 3 or 4 yards, right? Mm-hmm. So like with the way he's been playing, and like he probably has this like God level confidence in the way he's throwing the football,
right?
And he's like, if I put this in the right spot, we're scoring a touchdown here.
Yeah,
but he does it, and it's a pick. Whereas like I don't know, if like we said, if he beats that one linebacker that's there, he's probably scoring in that case. So it's just like, I think he's kind of forcing it a bit, trying to put as many points on the board. And I can't really fault him, because if he doesn't, like his defense ain't doing anything to help in that case. So it's concerning. And this is why I had my concerns last episode about the Seahawks. Because that defense is so bad. It's so bad it hurts your offense.
It does.
How often do you see that? It's you don't see that a lot. We've seen bad defenses with good offenses, but like to the point where it's like, hey, now you're kind of interfering with what we're trying to do on the offensive side. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like kind of sad for Russell Wilson, where like he's having his best season ever. They're finally letting Russ cook. And he's accompanied by his worst defense of all time. Certainly his worst defense of all time, and possibly the NFL's worst defense of all time. So I don't know how it gets better. Like Jamal Adams was supposed to be this fix, but like he doesn't really help you with pass defense. He's more of a blitzing run support safety. He's not like the guy who he's not Ed Reed or Tripple Muller like that.
Yeah.
So let's talk Rams for a second. Here they are, beat the Seahawks now. What's their ceiling, I guess?
They're certainly a playoff team. I think all three of those teams in the NFC West are going to make the playoffs. And I think the Niners will probably bottom out simply because of injuries. They just don't seem to be able to get healthy. But I think they're probably still going to finish third in this division. I think the Seahawks will figure it out eventually. But, I depending on who they draw in the playoffs, like this Rams team can beat people. They have a really good defense. Like, I think they can win a playoff game. I think if they run the ball well, I think that'll be the biggest thing, is if they get the running game going and they don't have to rely too much on Jared Goff, who's been solid. But, if he doesn't have to throw it 30 to 40 times, I think they'd be fine, depending on who they draw in that first round. So, like, I would say their ceiling is probably the divisional round. I don't know that, and again, depending on matchups, maybe they could, because the NFC's a free-for-all at this point. I think they could get to the NFC Championship. I don't think that's ridiculous to say out loud. I would say maximum ceiling is probably NFC Championship.
Yeah, I like the Rams. They're very balanced run pass wise. Like, they've got a good running game. Malcolm Brown and them have figured something out with him. And Cam Akers. And Cam Akers. And that defense is good. Like, the really good game plan against Russell Wilson. I like the Rams team. I was high on them before the year, so maybe I'm just hoping that prediction works out. But it has so far anyway. So, all right, last game we will talk about was the Sunday night game. The Patriots beat the Ravens in a hurricane last night in New England. It was an interesting game. Damian Harris ran all over the Ravens. What did you think about this one?
Well, that was probably the most shocking thing about this game, is like the Ravens defense is supposed to be really good against the run, and they were not in this one. But I think, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point with how much I've talked about it. But, Lamar Jackson can't throw the ball. Like,
nope.
Especially outside the numbers. Like, I think he's really good on seam throws. But it's just like he's not a good pocket passer. And if he doesn't light you up on the ground, you can beat the Ravens. Anyone can beat the Ravens if you don't let him light you up from a rushing standpoint, or if you don't let J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards light you up on the ground. And I really don't think I think the Ravens are hurting themselves with trying to force the Mark Ingram. Like, he's washed, and I think not only is he washed, he's holding back your two other running backs who are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, J.K. Dobbins is pretty good.
Yeah, he is.
Gus Edwards is pretty good. Like, Gus Edwards 7 for 42 last night, 6 yards a carry, and it's like you're giving Mark Ingram five carries for 5 yards. Like, that's a waste. Feed Gus Edwards. He was running the ball well. Get the ball in his hands more. Lamar's ran 11 times last night, which was the most on the team. And, like, granted, obviously you want to be running with Lamar because he's really good at that. But I think your run game is more effective when you're using Gus Edwards and Dobbins and going with, either of those as a hot hand. All three can't get it going. I don't think we've really seen that yet. And I just really don't see the point in keep trying to force that. But from a passing perspective, Lamar wasn't like awful, and he never really is, right? To the point where it's like he looks like Nate Peterman or anything like that.
Carson Wentz.
It's right, or Carson. He never looks as bad as Carson Wentz throwing the football. But there's always those moments where it's just like, 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. Awful decision to throw a jump ball to Marquise Brown.
Yeah,
and not only was it was a jump ball because you threw it on his inside shoulder. It's not even on the outside. He wasn't really open at all, and you would have needed a perfect throw in order to get him that ball in any way, shape, or form. And that's not something he can do. So, and that costs you points. You're almost in field goal range. I think they might have actually been in field goal range with like 14 seconds left. There's no need to make that throw, no need to make that decision. And granted, you lose by 6. Who knows how the game changes when you get those 3 points instead of losing them.
Yeah, he's a one-read quarterback for me. Like, it's like he's either gonna run it, which is what he's really good at, or he's gonna do the play action and look for that guy. And if it's not there, it's all hell. Who knows? He's either gonna throw it up in coverage like he did to Marquise Brown, or he's gonna tuck it and run, which is probably what the Ravens want him to do in those situations, right? Like, I'm not sure they want him throwing the ball that much once it's past that first read.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, do I give him – I think I might give him a pass for this one. And it was a hurricane, and that's why.
That's true.
And I think, considering it was a hurricane and considering what we already know about him, I don't think it was that bad for him. I think this is like this is like what you would expect from him in a hurricane-type game, which just shows, like, how far he's fallen from last year where, like, he was the MVP. If he had a bad game, it was like, whoa, what's going on? Now he's had quite a few bad games this year, especially throwing the football, that we're like, even when this game started and it's in the hurricane, we're kind of thinking to ourselves already, it's going to be tough for Lamar to throw the football today. And it was tough for him to throw the football. And, credit to the Pats, right? Because we kind of thought the Pats were done and that their season was over, but they're not giving up. They're not really out of a spot completely. They're not done. There's a couple 6-3 teams ahead of them, so it's going to be really tough. But I mean, they string wins together. If there's 4-5 right now, there's 3 6-3 teams ahead of them, and they're probably going to have to go at a minimum 9-7, maybe 10-6. They can squeeze in, so like that's going to be really tough, right? To run the slate besides one game, but they're not going to give up. And Cam Newton had a really solid game, so.
And if you think about it, the Pats are 5-4 if he doesn't fumble against the Bills. So, and the Bills would be I think there's 6-4. So the AFC East gets a little tighter there. If Cam doesn't fumble in that game. Yeah,
and my Cam MVP case maybe is still holding up. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Last thing we will talk about today is an update on the NFL MVP race.
Yes.
Russ was leading this for a while. It seems the last couple of weeks he's kind of dropped a little bit. What is your hierarchy right now?
So I still have Pat Mahomes.
Okay.
Granted, they were on a bye this week, but I think he's the front runner at this point, just from a statistical standpoint. And they're 7-1, something like that. Yep. So I think he's the front runner right now. I would say probably in second. I think you still have to have Russ there. I don't know anyone else who throughout the course of this season has played better than him and mattered more to their team than him.
I can think of one guy.
Who do you think?
Kyler Murray.
You think over the whole season he's been better?
Well, I think that, yes. Well, no, not the first 5 weeks, obviously, Russ was better.
Right.
But the last couple of weeks, Kyler has been a lot better.
Yeah.
He's going to beat Lamar Jackson's statistical numbers from last year.
Yeah.
And they're tied for first place right now. So I think we're probably going to look at this and say whoever wins this Thursday night game, because they play each other on Thursday, is the second place guy behind Mahomes.
Yeah, as you see, and I was going to have Kyler at third,
okay,
and then Aaron at fourth, and then Ben at fifth.
Ben, love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Because listen, he was really good.
Yes,
on Sunday. Granted, the Bengals aren't great, but that's what you're supposed to do to bad teams.
Yep.
He lit them up, and at 9-0, like we talked about last episode, he's by far their most valuable. They're not 9-0 without him. So.
Oh yeah, well the thing is too, like a good case for him is like they were 8-8 last year. They've already they already have more wins this year with him than they had last year when he didn't play. So like there's a case for that. I would go Mahomes, and then Kyler, and I think Alvin Kamara maybe in the race.
Ooh, I like that.
He has been so good and really carrying the Saints, who are looking like they're going to end up with the number 1 seed in the NFC, right? They're
Drew Brees possibly out. They said optimistically he's going to miss about 2 to 3 weeks, so possibly longer. So I don't know if they hold that with Jameis, but we'll see.
Well, if they do hold it with Jameis, then his case gets stronger. His case gets stronger, right? Because then you're like, okay, he's doing this. He's carrying them, which he kind of already has been. But we might think about it differently if it's Jameis playing quarterback instead of Drew, even though Jameis might be better than Drew Brees. So, and then I would probably have, I think I'd probably have Russ and then Ben. Rodgers just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: How much is Jameis going to go for on the fantasy auction waivers? $20?
Oh, I think that would be hefty to pay for him.
You think so?
In a year where the quarterback position is pretty deep fantasy-wise. But I think the best part about Jameis from a fantasy perspective is what he probably does for Michael Thomas.
Yes.
Because, Jameis Winston's no conservative with the football.
No, he's not.
Granted, he might, have those games where it gets ugly throwing the picks, but I don't think anyone would debate that way. I'd rather see this Bucs offense from a fantasy perspective with Jameis.
Okay, yeah, so that's all the NFL topics we had for today, and that concludes episode 53 of the All In Podcast. Coop, tell the people what else is going on with the All In Network.
Yeah, so we've got quite a bit going on at the All In Network. A new article just posted by Mike Burton Moran, our blog writer, wrote an article about the romanticism in politics that we have with certain politicians. I thought it was a very interesting read. So that is available right now on our website at allinnetwork.net. My NFL Power Rankings, my weekly article, will be coming out tomorrow after the Monday night games, which would be Tuesday, the 17th. So stay tuned for that. We also have an app now. The All In Network app is available on the Apple and Google Play Store. So you can find our app and use that to access everything All In Network related. Now the podcast audio is only ours right now. We're working on getting the other ones, but you can access our website, follow our social media feed through there, things like that. So you can stay up to date with everything All In Network related. So make sure you download that on your smartphone or tablet as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of cool stuff going on with us. If you are on this YouTube channel right now, make sure you are subscribing. Hit that notification button. That way you know when we go live. We do a lot of live shows. We also have All In Politics, who has been very busy lately.
Yeah.
They just released an episode talking about Joe Biden's victory. So make sure you are tuned into that. There was an interesting discussion also about why Democrats lost some House and Senate races. And I believe you jumped on there for a second, too, to talk about that. So make sure you go check that out.
Yep.
If you like hearing Eli's voice, which I'm sure you do because you're listening to this. So yeah, check that out, guys. Follow us on social media, Twitter @all_in_pod, Facebook, Instagram, All In Network, and head on over to allinnetwork.net to see everything we got going on. Thanks for listening, guys. Good.
See you guys next time.
Yep.